you can tell that the shutdown is making the Democrats sweat because they're losing their minds. They're all losing. You know what? Ironically, all the Democrats are losing their minds except for John Fetterman. But you know what they say? If you don't have one, you can't lose it. That's horrible. I should be nicer to John Fetterman because he's actually the only mentally stable Democrat we have left. What's up? This is Mark K. Saves the Republic. Thanks so much for being here today. Man, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I don't know what else is. Probably you're never gonna. But if you, I'm gonna give it one more go. Subscribe right now and hit the notification bell, because if you subscribe and you hit the notification bell, then every single time we go live, every single time we publish content, every single time something happens, you're gonna get alerted to the fact that there's new information and entertainment that's been really specifically designed for you. If you're listening to this right now, then I want you to think about this. If you're a long-time listener, if you've been with us since we were on the radio, or since we started this podcast well over a year ago now, if you're somebody who's been following my content for decades, you know that you like this stuff. You know that we vibe, right? I got you. I got your back. We get all that. That's why you're here. But if you've just stumbled across this program or this broadcast or this podcast or whatever you want to call it for the first time, and you're like, this is likable, I'm enjoying this, then it's because the algorithm told you would. It's because the AI generated content pushers pushed me to you. Just like a drug addict. They're like, we know what you like. And if you like this over here, you're going to love this over here. And so, I just say, trust the algorithm, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification. And that way you'll be able to get stuff that you are a fan of all the time. Because we have so much fun here. We have a lot of fun here, and we cover all the news, and we do it. We make bad news sound good. Someone once said, Mark K, you make bad news sound good. That's my job. My job is to take the bad news and make it sound good. And my fun fact, also, I like to take good news and make it sound even better. Like, for example, Nancy Pelosi has totally snapped. We broke Nancy Pelosi. President Donald Trump did it. The Republicans in Congress did it. The media has done it. People like you and I have done it. Nancy Pelosi, who once was sitting pretty on top of the world as Speaker of the House, multi-millionaire from all the illegal stock trades she and her husband made. Nancy Pelosi, who was at one time the queen of the world, is now just cracked. She has officially become an old crotchety Karen lashing out at reporters at the Capitol building.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable?
Oh, wait, what? Oh, hold on, here it is.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day? Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day? Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
That's I believe that's Mike Lindell TV. I forget her name. She's great though. I forget the reporter's name, but Mike Lindell TV sent their reporter out to the Capitol to get in Nancy Pelosi's face. And Nancy Pelosi, at first, what happened was, she was walking away. Nancy Pelosi's like, I'm not going to talk to Mike Lindell TV. But that question, man, it just rattled her. She didn't want people thinking that she didn't send in the National Guard. She didn't want people thinking that she was the reason people died on January 6th. She didn't want anybody knowing the truth. She much preferred her narrative that President Donald Trump was the one that caused all the problems on January 6th. And that President Trump was the one that didn't send in the National Guard. When we all know that there's a totally different tale to tell. And we know that because of this video.
We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with? They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Okay, so that was Nancy Pelosi in 2021 saying, I take responsibility for not having the National Guard there. I take responsibility for not having the National Guard prepared for more. I take responsibility, as well she should, because as Speaker of the House of Representatives, that's her job. Her job is to secure this House of Representatives. Her job is to protect the representatives in Congress, Senate, Republicans, Democrats, whoever it is. Your visitors, the sergeant at arms works for you. And if you need the National Guard there, it's your job to call it the National Guard and make sure that they're there and they're primed and they're ready to go. She did none of that. And now she's yelling at reporters saying, not my job.
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
As if you're a serious journalist. Shut up. I'm putting that on the button bar, by the way.
Shut up.
Yeah, that's good.
Shut up.
Oh man, you know what? As much as I hate Nancy Pelosi, I just love Nancy Pelosi.
Shut up.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just one Democrat that's melted. All the Democrats are melting down. This Schumer shutdown has really put them in a bad position. It's put them in a bad position for a couple of reasons. Number one, they thought for sure everybody would be blaming the Republicans, but that's not the case. People are blaming the Democrats. Everybody is looking around going, wow, why are the Democrats shutting down the government so long? When are the Democrats going to open up the government? Why does Chuck Schumer hate people? Why is Chuck Schumer not voted? Why are these? In fact, it's amazing to me, but there are repeated instances of media news outlets and elected officials blaming the Democrat. In fact, John Thune has been doing a pretty decent job of reminding Americans that every single Republican, except for Rand Paul, has voted to reopen the government in the Senate. We only need 5 Democrats to join us.
Well, I hope it doesn't last through Thanksgiving because that's going to be a lot of harm to the American people, and obviously a lot of harm to federal workers. There is a bill sitting at the desk right now that opens up the government. You all know that. The president would sign it today. The government opens up. It's simply a function of 5 Democrats joining the 3 Democrats who are already voting to open up the government, and I think that's the quickest way to end this.
Did you hear that? He said Thanksgiving, man. That's on purpose, by the way. He's saying, I hope it doesn't last through Thanksgiving, because now what he's doing is he's putting it in everyone's head that this could last through Thanksgiving. And everyone's like, Thanksgiving? This can't last. Thanksgiving? What did he say? No way. Yeah, it could. This could last through Thanksgiving unless 5 Democrats step up. 5 Democrats find a backbone. 5 Democrats realize that Senator Schumer is holding the entire country hostage because he's afraid he's going to lose. 5 Democrats, just like John Fetterman was on stage yesterday at, I believe it was the Kennedy Center, and he was being interviewed by Chris Cuomo, among others. And John Fetterman said something that just, makes a whole heck of a lot of sense, even for somebody like John Fetterman.
Yeah, well, it's like that's why shutting the government is really what the Democratic Party wants to do. And I follow country, then party, and it's the wrong thing for the country in a period of chaos. I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I absolutely would love to have. I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for health care. Absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democratic Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken by the Republicans. They were designed to expire. Now let's have a conversation to extend it and not shut our government down, and let's continue to have.
Who has already agreed to that?
It's amazing to me that John Fetterman, even though he still mixes up his words, even though he doesn't speak clearly, even though he's still got the remnants of that stroke, he is the smartest Democrat there is. And he's letting go. These are things that the Democrats don't want anyone to tell you, let alone one of their own. John Fetterman, he's telling the truth. He's saying shutting down the government is what the Democrats want. They're not out there going, they're lying to you. They're telling you it's the Republicans. They're telling you it's horrible. They're telling you that people are suffering. Meanwhile, they love it. We know they love it because Chuck Schumer said every day gets better for us. Have you noticed that ever since that quote came out, you haven't seen Chuck Schumer do any interviews? Chuck Schumer doesn't go on television anymore. And that's the best thing that happened. Chuck Schumer doesn't go on television anymore because he let it slip that every day gets better for the Democrats. He's damaged goods. They can't have that clown case going on TV anymore, grilling burgers upside down with the cheese on the raw side of the meat. You can't have that guy who's saying the quiet part out loud that we love the government shutdown because every day gets better for us. John Fetterman just doubled down on that and said the Democrats want this. Oh, and by the way, he threw this one in just for, oh, by the way, that lie they're telling you about the Obama subsidies, they were set to expire. They wanted them to expire this year. That was their whole plan. That was their point. They didn't make them permanent. They made them expire. The Democrats did that. And now they're screaming and yelling and whining and complaining about it. Why? Because it's all for a political ploy. But Chuck Schumer, the irony of this whole thing is that if Chuck Schumer thought shutting down the government was going to save his job politically, it's doing the opposite. He shut down the government because he didn't want to lose in a primary challenge to AOC. Now shutting down the government is making him the dumbest, most inept, most idiotic person there. Even Donald Trump. He even has Donald Trump yesterday calling him an idiot. President Donald Trump yesterday said that Chuck Schumer is, oh, here it is. He said he's an intelligent idiot.
And as far as the shutdown's concerned, this is a Democrat Schumer shutdown. And he's trying to do it to get relevance back into the party because he's a loser. I've known him all his life. He's always been sort of a loser, but an intelligent one. But I think he's losing IQ points with time.
He's an intelligent loser. That's it. Chuck Schumer is a loser. I've known him his entire life. He's always been a loser. He's intelligent, but he's a loser. Let me ask you this. Is being an intelligent loser something you strive for? Is that somebody you want in a position of power? No. And Chuck Schumer is losing. He's losing this battle. He's losing against his own party. He's losing to the far left extremists, and he's going to lose his job. And he's going to lose his job to AOC. And CNN had AOC and Bernie Sanders on their Fight Oligarchy tour or whatever it was. They had Bernie Sanders and AOC on their stage doing a town hall, taking questions. And man, you've never seen two more angry Karens. Well, since Nancy Pelosi yelled at the reporter on the steps of the Capitol building.
Shut up.
Yeah. But AOC and Bernie Sanders, the two of them were on CNN. And the question was posed by Caitlin Collins. Are you going to run against Chuck Schumer in the primary for the Senate seat in New York? And man, AOC and Bernie said they were irate. They lost it. They exploded. I guess they forgot for a minute they were on CNN, right? But it was Caitlin Collins asked, hey, everybody thinks they're going to primary Chuck Schumer. Is that going to happen? And Bernie Sanders went, like AOC went like kind of Karen. Bernie Sanders went full Karen on Caitlin Collins.
But are you saying that Senator Schumer should not be worried about a primary challenge from you?
I mean,
all right.
No.
Let me jump in on this one. This is what we're
talking about.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
This is what we're talking about.
You have a country that is falling apart. We had a housing crisis, a healthcare crisis, an education crisis, massive income and wealth inequality, a corrupt campaign finance system, and the media says, "Oh, you're going to run? What are you going to run for?" Nobody cares. So run more towards
nobody cares. It's the House Speaker and President Trump and the Vice President saying it.
All right.
Pardon?
Well, of course, they're saying it to deflect attention away from the real issue.
Exactly.
And here, let me tell you what the real issue is. Let's see if CNN talks about it. We're living in the richest country in the history of the world, right? All right, you tell me why we're the only nation not to guarantee health care to all people, the only nation not to guarantee paid family and medical leave, why we have a $7.25 an hour minimum wage, why we have 800,000 people sleeping out on the street, why we have a president who denies the reality of climate change, why we have oligarchs on top who have more and more power every day. Let's talk about that issue, not her own political future. She'll decide that.
Yeah, she'll decide. Well, I totally, you know what it is? I can't even decipher between Bernie Sanders and Larry David anymore. They're just they're like the same person. What are we even talking about here? This is the problem. Let me handle this. Let me handle it. This is the problem we have. We have income inequality and we have no health care and oligarchs and there's climate change. And you're worried about whether she's going to run for, she'll decide whether she runs. Nobody cares. Well, literally, you know what? A lot of people care. Chuck Schumer cares, for one. Chuck Schumer cares because the reason we're in a shutdown is because Chuck Schumer's trying to keep from getting primaried by AOC. AOC literally threatened him and said, if you open up this government, if you allow this vote to pass, if you vote for this clean CR like you did 14 other times, if you do that, then we will end you. I don't know if that's a direct quote. I'm paraphrasing, but AOC walked into Chuck Schumer's office and said, the government shuts down. Do not vote for this CR or we will end you. And she had enough support from the other left-wing lunatic radicals like Bernie Sanders from Vermont and Zohran Mamdani. I mean, think about this. Zohran Mamdani is about to be mayor. AOC is the one that got him there. If you've got the mayor and AOC and they're running together against Chuck Schumer, then he knows he's toast. He knows he's done for. He can't beat that. So he had no choice to save his political future than to vote for vote to keep the government shut down. What Chuck Schumer should really do is realize that it's over for him. The sooner that Chuck Schumer realizes his political career is over, and if I were Donald Trump, Donald Trump doesn't necessarily want the government opened up anyway because he's having a blast sicking Russ Vought on all of these government programs. Russ Vought was on the Charlie Kirk show yesterday, and Russ Vought was talking about all of the people that are going to be shut down, all of the people. He said, look, basically, he said, we're going to get rid of all of these things that just don't make any sense anyway because it's against the people's interest.
The Democrats have put us in a position where, against the American people's interest, they've put us in shutdown. And obviously there's impacts on the American people as a result. But one of the problems of a government shutdown is it slows down the administration. So the administration can't do as much of what it was doing on behalf of the American people because it's in a shutdown. And we, to the best of our abilities, want to minimize that slowdown in momentum. And I think the president is kind of doing that himself with, solving Middle East peace and all the manner of things that he spends his time in. But one of the things we want to do is, if there are policy opportunities to downsize the scope of the federal government, we want to use those opportunities. And if I can't do things, because you can't do everything you would normally do in a shutdown, right? It has to be generally related to life and protecting property. And if I can only work on saving money, then I'm going to do everything I can to look for opportunities to downsize in areas where this administration has thought this is our way towards a balanced budget. And I think you've seen some of that in the president's messaging.
Yeah, we're going to take all your stupid Democrat programs that are designed to pad the pockets of your donors. We're going to take all your stupid climate initiatives, and we're going to take all your DEI projects, and we're going to take all your USAID money that's kicking around, and all the money in the Department of Education that just ends up in the teachers' unions' pockets. We're going to take all of that stuff, and we're going to get rid of it. And we're going to shut down departments, and we're going to close programs. We're not furloughing anybody. We are canceling them because, and there was another clip, I don't even know where it is, but it's a great, he put it in a great way. Russ Vought said, oh, I know what it was. They asked him, how is it that you're able to do this? And he said, basically, when the government shuts down and the Democrats refuse to fund a program, which is what they're doing, they're sending a signal to the White House that this program is not important. And if they're not going to fund the program now, well, then there's no guarantee that they're going to fund it in the future. And so everything is on the chopping block. There's no money in the budget. So it's now up to the executive branch whether to keep the program or dismantle it. And the president and Russ Vought have unilaterally been given that power by the Democrats. And they're going to use it. They are using it. Here's that question, by the way.
Is there some special mechanism that allows you to do this during a government shutdown? Or are you simply saying, hey, while everything's stopped, I'm going to turn my attention to this because...
It's a combination of both, in the sense that Congress is saying we're not going to fund these programs by not passing the Republican continuing resolution. So if there's no funding for these programs, then what would you have us do? Is it not to make an assumption that you don't intend to fund these in the future?
Right.
And so we're then doing the normal legal authorities that are given to us and our focused time and attention to be able to go after and prioritize the RIFs as opposed to the deregulatory agenda or any of the things that we're normally tasked with at OMB.
You're basically saying if we're not going to fund this, it's not important to us. We're not going to give you money anymore because, you know what, we're trying to save Chuck Schumer. All of that stuff. And it ends up better for Donald Trump because now he can doge the things he wanted to doge. Does Donald Trump want the government open up? Absolutely. Is he going to take full advantage of it being shut down? Absolutely. And he's winning. The only loser here is Chuck Schumer. And as soon as Donald Trump, if I were Donald Trump again, and I'm not telling Donald Trump what to do, the guy's been doing great on his own, doesn't need help from me. However, if I were Donald Trump, I would cut everything today, everything on the list. I'd be like, boom, 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 cut it all today. I would pick up the phone and I would say to Chuck Schumer, you're done. There's no other term for you. There's no future election for you. I mean, the dude is 77 years old. Okay. Or he will be when he runs again. That's the thing. He's 75. The election's in 2 years. Or 3 years rather. So he'll be, hold on, let me do the math again. Yeah. He's 74. Pardon me. The election's in 3 years, which means he'll be 77 when he runs for re-election. And if he wins, God forbid, that's another 6-year term, which means he would be 83. If I were Donald Trump, I'd pick up the phone and say, you're lost. You're done. Open up the government now, because whether it's AOC or Mom Donnie or me, DJT, we are going to make sure that you lose. We will all campaign against you. There's going to be no money. There's going to be no support. You're going to be old. I'm going to tell everybody how old you are. I'm going to release the Epstein files, whatever it takes. I'm going to make sure that you fail. You're done. So the best thing you can do right now is open up the government and let AOC go after you, because then maybe you have a fighting chance. Then maybe you have a fighting chance, because if Mamdani becomes mayor, which he's gonna, and he destroys New York City, well, then Chuck Schumer has something to run on. Look, AOC and Mamdani destroyed New York City. Do you want that to happen in New York State? Hire me again for 6 more years. I don't think it'll happen. I think he's toast, but he's still, that's the problem, is that hope. Chuck Schumer has this hope in his mind that he can continue to be a senator for 6 more years, really 9 more years. I mean, come on. Does he hate his wife that much? That's what I always think. If I were 77 and I told my wife I'm going to go back to Washington for 6 more years, she would divorce me. Come on. He's basically saying, I hate my wife, isn't he? Isn't that what this all boils down to? If you're Chuck Schumer and you are keeping the government shut down because you're trying to cling to 1 more 6-year term, another half dozen years, if you're like, I am not done yet, I want to stay in Congress till I'm 83 years old, what that tells me is you hate your wife so much that you're willing to take food and money and rent out of the pockets of hardworking federal employees, military personnel, and others, just so you don't have to go home and listen to that slack-jawed Karen give you a list of to-do items. You'd rather kill yourself. That's what he's telling. I'd rather be anywhere than at home, retired with my wife. If I were his wife, I'd be like, look, you're making me look bad. You're making me look horrible in this whole thing. And I don't know a lot about his wife. I mean, you married to Chuck Schumer as long as you've been married to Chuck Schumer? I'm sure you have. I'm sure you're probably very, you know what? She and Nancy Pelosi are probably very similar. I'm just going to say that.
Shut up.
They both, Nancy Pelosi's like the work wife. When you've worked with Nancy Pelosi that long, you could probably take anything, but I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe he's just
Shut up.
Yeah. Anyway, that's where we are with the shutdown. So Bernie Sanders and AOC exploded on CNN about the Schumer challenge question, but they also didn't really have a lot of answers for any of the real questions. In fact, Bernie Sanders got totally smacked by a member of the audience who asked about Chuck Schumer's leadership.
How do you think this shutdown reflects on Chuck Schumer's leadership?
Well, I think it reflects more on Mike Johnson's leadership and President Trump's leadership. This is a leadership which said it's okay to give well, how do you feel? You tell me. Think it's a good idea to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the richest people in the country and then make massive cuts to health care for working class people?
I think Chuck Schumer has voted for continuing resolutions 13 times in the last 4 years, and he has the opportunity to vote for one again, but he's refusing to come to the table.
Well, I think, look.
Yeah, okay, look, you're smart. That's what he's saying. He goes, let me ask you a question. You think trillions of dollars in tax cuts to the rich and then you cut Medicare for regular people? What do you think? And this guy is like, well, I think Chuck Schumer has voted for this very same clean CR 13 times, but now that it's Donald Trump, now that it's the Republicans, and now that his political life's on the line, he's not voting for it. And Bernie Sanders is like, oh, okay, you're smart. I get it. You're not stupid. You're not dumb like the other people we see. When we go to an AOC rally, those people are idiots. They have to be to vote for it. But you're smart. Okay. I'll move on to the next question. He couldn't answer it. He had no answer to it. There is no answer to it. In fact, AOC was asked a question about what people are supposed to do for money. She couldn't answer it, so of course she didn't.
What do you suggest government workers do for food money when the paychecks stop coming?
I mean, these are the real questions that we have to be entertaining. And as I mentioned earlier, the best and most important solution to this is making sure that we reopen the government, not accept the inevitability of this, and come to a resolution as quickly as possible. Extending this shutdown would be a choice. Mike Johnson saying we want to make this the longest shutdown, saying this to prepare for this being the longest shutdown, that's not leadership. That is abdication of responsibility. It's an abdication to families like his. and a complete abdication of the responsibility that we have to people. Now, that being said, we do have to make sure that we come together as communities and that we also systemically expand our programming, like the SNAP cuts that just happened, in addition to the $1 trillion in healthcare cuts as well for families that are under financial duress.
All right, so the answer to that question is, let me talk about Mike Johnson. By the way, Mike Johnson didn't say we want this to be a long shutdown. He said prepare for a long shutdown. Why? Because he knows the Democrats are going to prepare for a long shutdown. They've had 9 votes, and every time they voted, the Democrats have in unison voted to keep the government shut down. 9 votes. And the reason they're voting, and look, I don't know if they're going to hold another vote tomorrow. If they do, it's going to be a 10th. Because the No Kings rally is this weekend. And the No Kings rally, this whole thing, I've been getting text messages galore. Fun fact, I get text messages from all of the resistance groups. I get text messages from all of the counter protesters, which, by the way, there should be a lot more. There should be a lot more. I'm going to go to one of these protests. I don't know which one. Maybe it's downtown at City Hall. But there's a lot of these protests out there. And we don't have enough counter protesters. The people that went to the Trump rallies in 2024, hundreds of thousands of people at Trump rallies all over the country. People lined the street. When Donald Trump was in town and he was driving around, people waited and they lined the street with signs and American flags, and they waited for hours just so when the president rolled by, they could wave and cheer, and hopefully the president would wave back, which he always did. And that was something that was amazing. Now that Donald Trump is back in office, now the Republicans hold the Senate and the House of Representatives and the Supreme Court, and now that America is becoming great again, we don't have a lot of MAGA Republicans getting up, grabbing their American flags and going out to counter protest, but we need them. If you have a No Kings rally in your area this weekend, join a counter protest, because what they're going to do is all these lunatic left-wing freaks, they're going to go out in every city in the nation. Some will be big, some will be small, most will be paid, some will be volunteers, but they're going to go out in every city they can find. They're going to go out in every city in the nation, and they're going to wreak havoc, and they're going to be loud, and they're going to break things and burn flags. They're going to chant no kings, la, 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 la. And they're going to have the little signs from, I think that was a Lion King quote, wasn't it? No king, la, 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 la. Isn't that from the Lion King? I think that's what it was. But that's what they remind me of the hyenas from the Lion King running around going, no king, no king. Which, by the way, the irony is there are going to be massive protests all over the country claiming that in the United States of America, we don't have kings, nor do we want one. And the irony is, if Donald Trump really were a king, he would shut down all the protests. If Donald Trump were really the king that they claim he is, there would be no protests. There would be no No Kings rally. You'd be just thrown in jail for even mentioning it. But we don't have a king. We have a democratic republic. And you have the freedom to peaceably assemble. And as long as you're peaceably assembling, then you're good to go. That's the whole thing too, right? Like the peaceably assemble. Where is I'm going to pull, I've been reading a lot of the Constitution this week. Congress shall make no law respecting blah, 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 or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. It's that peaceably to assemble. That's the word that gets them. That's the word that they're like, we got the right to be here and burn stuff. No, you don't. You have the right to peaceably assemble. But once the peaceably goes, if it's not peaceable, then you've relinquished your rights, and that's when the pepper spray and the pellets and the cuffs come out, and you get hauled away. You get hauled away on a hand truck from Home Depot. That's what happens. So anyway, this is happening all this weekend. And if the Democrats leave the government shut down, then the No Kings rally and the No Kings protests and this whole No Kings Day that happens on Saturday, that holds a lot more weight. That holds a lot more water. If the the government continues to be shut down, then this No Kings thing is they could yell and scream about the people not getting their WIC payments and the people not getting paid, and Donald Trump hates the people on welfare and Medicaid and Medicare and Obamacare and blah, blah, blah. They could all, but if the Democrats vote to reopen the government and the government's open and Donald Trump wins, No Kings Day fizzles. So you've got folks like AOC and Zoran Mamdani, who's going to use the No King's Day celebration in New York to definitely bolster his political campaign. I mean, all these Democrats, Pritzker, there's another genius. These people, they're all going to use all of these things to try and push themselves back into a position of power. And that's why they're holding the government hostage. The government will remain shut through this weekend, and maybe even probably longer. It depends on what happens on No King's Day. J.B. Pritzker, by the way, Stephen Miller. I love, you know who loves Stephen Miller? I love Stephen Miller. Most of America loves Stephen Miller, and Donald Trump loves Stephen Miller. And that's why he thanked him at the Oval Office ceremony yesterday before they talked about the FBI numbers and how effective the FBI has been. And I'm going to play that for you here in just a minute. But first, speaking of effective, when you're talking about effective investments, when you're talking about an effective plan, your plan should definitely include gold, because I've seen the bloodbath that came from Bitcoin last week when billions and billions of dollars was withdrawn and people's Bitcoin cryptos, currency portfolios plummeted. I've seen what happens with the stock market when Donald Trump levies tariffs on China and people start freaking out about chip manufacturers and whatnot, or when Donald Trump and Elon Musk get into a fight and Tesla stocks go boo, but then they come right back up. It's volatile. And for a lot of people, you don't have the time, you don't have the money, you don't have you're risk averse, and you don't necessarily want to gamble, because a lot of times that's what it is. It's gambling. Gold is a much safer investment because gold is a safe haven investment. And at Augusta Precious Metals, they prove it every single day. If you have $50,000 in an IRA, or $50,000 in a 401k, or if you have $50,000 in a savings account, that's great. If you put that money, though, in a less volatile safe haven account like a precious metal IRA from Augusta Precious Metals, then you can earn, this year alone, 25%. 25%. And that doesn't go up and down the way the rest of these other markets do. Gold is fairly stagnant, fairly safe. And that's why every major rich person has gold in their investments. Augusta Precious Metals can help you out. Here's what you do. Go to getmarksgold.com. Getmarksgold.com. Get your free Augusta Gold Guide. Learn all about IRA investing, and then give them a call or send them an email and say, you know what, I want my money to make 25%, and I don't want it to be volatile, and I want my financial future to be protected for myself and my family, and I trust Mark K. And if he says Augusta Precious Metals is the place to be, well, it is. Getmarksgold.com. There's also a link in the description of this video. If you want, you can check it out. You can check it out there as well. Now, Stephen Miller, like I said, has been crucial. Stephen Miller came back and he was given, and I don't want to say the most important job because there's so many important jobs. Donald Trump is fighting battles on every front: foreign policy, domestic policy, the economy, the border, agriculture, the military, energy. He's got all these great ideas. He's got all these things he wants to accomplish. He's got very little time to accomplish all of them. And so he had to put the right people in the right place at the right time, and he did. And one of the very first pieces of the puzzle that he put in place, one of the very first people that he handpicked for his cabinet, because he knew they were going to get the job done, was Stephen Miller, the deputy chief of staff in charge of immigration and domestic policy. So Stephen Miller is the architect of the mass deportation. Stephen Miller is the architect of the Tom Homan and ICE working with the Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security and the military and the Department of War to round up and extract illegal immigrants ASAP, so that we have zero border crossing, so that we don't have drugs coming into the country. Everything that makes this country great and safe again, Stephen Miller has been part of. And Donald Trump thanked him yesterday. He had a big Donald Trump yesterday had a big thing at the White House yesterday for the ballroom. He was introducing the new ballroom, and he was showing all the donors. They had a big dinner, and he was showing them all the schematics and stuff. And he said, "Thank you, Stephen Miller."
I want to thank Stephen Miller, who's right back in the audience right there. I'd love to have him. I love watching him on television. I'd love to have him come up and explain his true feelings, but maybe not his truest feelings. That might be going a little bit too far. But Stephen, thank you for doing an unbelievable job. And the people of this country love you, I tell you. And they love what you say about crime and stopping crime.
Yeah. And Stephen Miller he was on with, I want to say it was Sean Hannity. He thanked the President Donald Trump and said it's an honor to serve with him. And what he's doing is actually helping and not exacerbating the situation the way that Joe Biden did. But Stephen Miller said, look, we have people in charge of big cities and big states and big portions of the population who are basically just buffoons.
Well, I mean, he's a fool and he's a moron, but also, most importantly, Sean, he hates America.
That's him talking about J.B. Pritzker from Illinois. J.B. the Hutt. J.B. Pritzker. This guy is, first of all, a billionaire, right? He's filthy rich. And he couldn't hack it in the family business, which was the Hilton hotel chain. He made his money, or his family made their money in the Hilton hotel chain. I guess they gave him a hotel and he drove it into the ground, or it wasn't a good fit. So they said, look, go do something else. And he started running for office, which is what a lot of people who can't do anything else other than me end up doing. And so he became governor of Illinois. And now he's destroying Illinois the way he destroyed whatever his family. Look, if your family doesn't trust you with their business, you shouldn't trust this guy with your state, with your safety, with your business. And that's what people in Illinois are doing. And Stephen Miller's like calling him out.
Well, I mean, he's a fool and he's a moron, but also, most importantly, Sean, he hates America. And let's just be honest about it. You can't love your country and then fight President Trump to keep murderers murdering. Just think about that for a second. President Trump is saying, let us work with you, with the FBI, with ICE, with ATF, with DEA, with the National Guard, to stop the murdering in your city. And Pritzker is saying he wants to protect the murderers, the people that are shooting dozens and dozens of people every single week. Chicago is more dangerous than Baghdad. It's more dangerous than Mexico City. So shame on Pritzker, and God bless President Trump for fighting for the citizens of this country, Sean.
I don't know if they were trying to get it like as dramatic as it sounded, or if they were going to commercial or something, but the music there at the end was really, really kind of. But he said, look, J.B. Pritzker hates America. How do we know that? Because he wants to keep the murderers murdering. Murder's gonna murder. Murderer's gonna murder. I'm gonna keep on murdering. That's exactly. I mean, that's a great way to put it. Let's cut it. Let's cut to the chase. J.B. Pritzker is not helping President Donald Trump round up the murderers in Chicago. He's keeping the murderers on the street. He's not allowing ICE agents get the murderous gang member thug drug dealers off the streets. So what does that mean? He must be in favor of the murderers murdering. And if the murderers keep murdering, well, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's in some way he benefits. I'm not really sure how. But Donald Trump says that's not what we're doing. Tom Homan says that's not what we're doing. Tom Homan says we have a plan in this country. We have a mandate in this country, and we are going to execute that plan, and ain't nobody going to stop us.
President Trump's policies, whether people want to face it or not, is saving lives by the thousands. Under Joe Biden, a record number of aliens died making that journey. A record number of Americans died from fentanyl coming across that border. This administration is not only enforcing law and making our streets safe again, they're saving thousands of lives.
Why do you think Governor Pritzker is so adamant against you and ICE? Why?
Because they hate Trump more than they love the residents of Chicago.
Is it that simple, though?
You tell me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
yes.
I think any elected mayor, any elected governor, any elected city council person, their number one responsibility is the safety of their communities.
But they keep the murderers murdering. Caroline Levitt said it first. If you loved your citizens as much as you hated President Donald Trump, then we wouldn't have a problem. We wouldn't have to worry about murderers murdering. We wouldn't have to worry about carjackers carjacking. We wouldn't have to worry about drug dealers drug dealing. We wouldn't have to worry about any of those things, because the murdering thug gang members would be back in their home countries or in jail or both. Instead, we got Jabba the Pritzker, who just, J.B. the Hutt over there in Illinois, who just can't seem to handle it. And and that's why we have these. I mean, in a way, it's good and it's bad. It's bad that you have people in place because it shows that it makes America less safe. It's good because it shows just how important law and order is to the United States of America, and how effective a law and order president can be. President Donald Trump yesterday in the White House, he brought in Todd Blanche. He brought in Pam Bondi. She's always there. She's there a lot. She's probably worked more. He brought in Kash Patel, everybody. And they shared some of the information about what was happening with Operation Summer Heat. Operation Summer Heat is the FBI operation that's taken guns off the streets, criminals off the streets, drugs off the streets. It's a multi-city, multifaceted, multi-bureau participatory operation that is keeping Americans safe. And Todd Blanche came in with Kash Patel. They shared some amazing numbers.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a great day, and I think there's stats that the director talked about which are important, but I want to give 2 examples of what summer heat has done that actually will apply hopefully to everybody in this room. The first is for over 4 years during the last administration, there was a hotel in a town, the middle of a town in Alaska, that was being run as a drug den. There were over 1,000 calls to 911 over four and a half year period. There were multiple violent crimes, drug dealers, overdoses, and murders at this one hotel, ruining a community. Summer heat went in there. It's not only arrested all the participants that were controlling the hotel, but seized the hotel. And so that's one example of what summer heat means to everyday Americans that just want to live in peace. The second example is a large narcotics trafficking group that was selling fentanyl in the state of Washington. They were shipping fentanyl and using commercial aircraft, putting fentanyl pills and powder onto in suitcases, flying them from the southwest border, mostly Arizona, all the way to Washington. It had been going on for an extremely long time, and the entire organization was arrested. And I say those 2 examples because it's easy to look at the board and see 1,000 arrests. How much different is our communities now compared to the past 4 years? But there's actual life examples. Every one of these arrests means that our streets are safer, and that's because of the work of this administration, of President Trump and Director Patel. So I will tell you, Attorney General Bondi and I are together every day with Director Patel, figuring out ways that we can continue to do this work, and it's not going to stop. Like the Attorney General said, and like the President said, this is just the beginning, or phase 1, or a start, whatever you want to say, but it will continue on. So thank you, Mr. President, and thank you very much, Director Patel.
FBI summer heat will continue. FBI summer heat will not stop. Well, I mean, I guess the summer's almost over. Well, summer's over now. It's fall, so it's got to be like fall heat or fall. It's got to be like, I guess it wouldn't be fall heat anymore. It'd be like the FBI crispy fall, or crispy crime, or pumpkin spice crime raids. Pumpkin spice fall. That's what it's got. Pumpkin ice fall. Look at that. I did it. It took me a minute, but I got there. Pumpkin ice lattes. That's what we're going to be doing. That's what we're going to be all fall. They're going to continue their work. They're going to continue to shut down those drug hotels in Alaska and wherever else they are. They're going to go in and they're going to continue to take guns off the streets. They're going to go in there and they're going to continue to do everything that they've said they were going to do. And they're going to do it in the way that they were elected to do. They're going to keep blowing boats out of the water. Another boat was blown out of the water. Because this is Donald Trump. He's not just attacking crime on the streets of Chicago, the streets of Washington, D.C. He's not just attacking crime in Memphis or Portland or anywhere else where these Democrats say, hey, all right, we're done with crime. Can you please send in the National Guard and help us? He's not just doing that. He's doing it on the ocean. He's keeping the drugs from getting here before they get here. And he's not apologizing for it. And if he needs to go on to if he's like, all right, we got all the boats out of the water, let's invade Venezuela, he has no problem with that.
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control. We've had a couple of days where there isn't a boat to be found. And that, I view that as a good thing, not a bad thing. But we had tremendous amounts coming in by boats, by very expensive boats. You know, they have a lot of money, very fast, very expensive boats that were pretty big. And the way you look at it is every boat that we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. So every time you see a boat and you feel badly, you say, wow, that's rough. It is rough, but if you lose 3 people and save 25,000 people, these are people that are killing our population. Every boat is saving 25,000 lives, and you can see it. The boats get hit, and you see that fentanyl all over the ocean. It's like floating in bags. It's all over the place, and it's a tremendous we're saving tremendous amounts of lives.
Who feels bad when they see these boat videos? I don't feel bad. Does anyone out there see these declassified videos that Sec War Hegseth puts out there of a boat just, barreling? And he's right. They're expensive boats. They have 4 massive Yamaha outboard motors that are just chugging along at lightning quick speed. And they've got their hull full of fentanyl and cocaine and everything else. And they've got 6 or 7 narco terrorists on there who are in charge of, protecting the the haul from the time they leave Venezuela to the time they get to Miami or wherever else they're going, Texas, I don't know where they're landing. And the boat, boom, gets blown out of the water, and you see the explosion, and it's like you're playing a video game. It's almost like some kind of really cool version of Grand Theft Auto. Right? And the boom, and then the drugs get, and you see them, they sprinkle fentanyl and the fish start getting high, and it's crazy. But does anyone feel bad about that? I don't feel bad. I go, whoa, we got him. And now that Donald Trump says every time we blow up a boat, we save 25,000 American lives. Think about that. I'd be blowing up boats every day. It's like it's like the Donald Trump version of It's a Wonderful Life. Teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. Okay, Donald Trump says every time a boat explodes, 25,000 people in the United States of America don't die from a fentanyl overdose. That's how, wait, where's my bell? There we go. That's the new It's a Wonderful Life. It's a wonderful Trump life. Every time a boat explodes, 25,000 people are saved. I'd be blowing boats out of the water every single day, and I'd feel bad if a day went by and I didn't blow a boat full of narco-terrorists out of the water. I'd feel horrible about that. I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself. Sleep with myself? Is that what I'm doing? I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself. I'd try, but I'd fail. I wouldn't be able to sleep, or live with myself, if I went a day without blowing narco-terrorists away. That's all I'm saying. But so it's not just crime in the streets of the United States of America, it's crime on the oceans. And Donald Trump said, if we got to go, because that's what happens. The drug dealers are like, well, we can't take the boats no more. The boats go boom, all drugs in the water. What do we got to go back to the land. And then Donald Trump's going to take them out on the land. And then they're going to have to fly them in on drones, and boom, we're going to take the drones out. It's just, it's like a constant cycle. It's kind of like when we used to get shut down by the social media sites. We would, all the conservatives, there was like a year or more, probably like 4 years, where we would do something and then we get shut down by a social media site or demonetized. So then we have to go figure out a way to get around the algorithm and get remonetized. And then we get shut down over here. And then it was just a constant battle. It's the same way now with these drug runners. They realize the waterways are now closed. So they're going to have to go back to some kind of traversing the land to get that. They're going to have to go back to drug mules or something. And that's a whole hassle because good drug mules are hard to come by. Listen, there's a couple of breaking news stories that I need to get to here real quick. Donald Trump just wrapped up a phone call with Vladimir Putin, and he posted about it just like 20 minutes ago on Truth Social. He wrote, "I've just concluded my telephone conversation with President Vladimir Putin of Russia, and it was a very productive one. President Putin congratulated me and the United States on the great accomplishment of peace in the Middle East, something that he said has been dreamed of for centuries. I actually believe that the success in the Middle East will help in our negotiation in attaining an end to the war with Russia-Ukraine. President Putin thanked the First Lady Melania for her involvement with children. He was very appreciative and said that this will continue. We also spent a great deal of time talking about trade between Russia and the United States when the war with Ukraine is over. At the conclusion of the call, we agreed that there will be a meeting of our high-level advisors next week. The United States' initial meetings will be led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, together with various other people to be designated. A meeting location is to be determined. President Putin and I will then meet in an agreed-upon location, Budapest, Hungary, to see if we can bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. President Zelensky and I will be meeting tomorrow in the Oval Office, where we will discuss my conversation with President Putin and much more. I believe great progress was made with today's telephone conversation." I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible. Donald Trump and he's right, it's a domino effect. Donald Trump negotiates peace in the Middle East, something that nobody ever thought would happen. Vladimir Putin's watching this going, "Ay, caramba, he did it. He did it. Donald Trump did what no one else could do." He gets 35 countries on board, 35 big countries, 35 countries that are now invested in the Middle East. Iran has no nuclear weapons. And guess what? Of those 35 countries that are now going to go in and invest in the Middle East and rebuild the Middle East and succeed in the Middle East, of those 35 countries, guess who's not involved? Russia and China. They weren't invited. And it happened anyway. And so now Russia's like, okay, I can't get locked out of the next thing. I gotta get back in the good graces because I'm losing money. India By the way, India, Donald Trump just cut India off from Russia and said, you cannot buy any oil from Russia. I have that. Hang on. I think I pulled that earlier today. He talked to what's his name in India and said, you can't. There's no more. If you're going to stop buying oil from Russia right now. So Russia, Vladimir Putin's looking around and he's like, okay, here it is. Indian Prime Minister Modi. Donald Trump basically threatened him into not buying any more Russian oil.
And he's assured me there will be no oil purchased from Russia. I don't know. Maybe that's a breaking story. Can I say that? Would you say? There will be no oil. He's not buying his oil from Russia. It started. You can't do it immediately. It's a little bit of a process. But the process is going to be over with soon. And all we want from President Putin is stop this. Stop killing Ukrainians and stop killing Russians, because he's killing a lot of Russians. Again, it doesn't make him look good. It's a war that he should have won in 1 week, and he's now going into his 4th year. That does not make this big so-called war machine look good.
Yeah. What Donald Trump is doing, we always talked about the New World Order and how all these economies wanted to come together and just control the entire world. Donald Trump is doing something similar but different. He's basically bringing the world together, independent countries that are working together economically to bolster their own economies instead of trying to create one big economy that's just going to destroy the entire world. And this is how it works. What Prime Minister Modi is doing in India by saying, I'm not going to buy Russian oil anymore, is huge. Because they only bought Russian oil, and India, I think they're the most populated country. There's more people in India than any other country. It used to be China, but I think India overtook them. And so that's a huge economy. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of rickshaws that require diesel that is not going to be coming from Russia anymore. It's going to be coming from somewhere else. So Russia's feeling the pinch. They're squeezed out of the Mideast peace deal. They're now losing customers for oil. Donald Trump is building a coalition of their former allies. I mean, the Arab world was never, Qatar was never allied with the United States of America. Saudi Arabia was never allied with the United States of America. The UAE, none of these countries were ever allied with the United States of America until Donald Trump came around and, using his business acumen and his capitalistic tendencies and creativity, came up with a plan that got everybody on board. And now we're all friends and investors. And when the tide, all ships rise with the tide, or whatever, the thing where the tide goes up and everybody goes up and the tide goes down and everybody wins, except the narco terrorists. They get blown out of the water and 25,000 lives are saved. So this is a monumental occasion. Caroline Leavitt was just asked about it. Here's what she said.
I just left the Oval Office and spoke with the president, the Secretary of State, and the vice president about the call. And the president, first of all, deserves tremendous credit for how much time and effort he has put into solving peace in the Middle East, which everyone said he wouldn't be able to do. There were many doubters about the president and his national security team, and they are getting it done. And now with respect to the Russia-Ukraine war, which the president continues to be wholeheartedly committed to ending, it was a very good and productive call between the president and President Putin. They discussed many issues. President Putin congratulated the president for solving peace in the Middle East. They also discussed, of course, the Russia-Ukraine war, and they have agreed to convene a meeting of their high-level staff next week to continue these very important discussions, which may be followed by yet another meeting between President Trump and President Putin. I believe the president will be putting out his own statement on this matter momentarily, so everyone should keep their eyes on Truth Social. But it was a good and productive call. And then, of course, we will welcome President Zelensky here to the White House again tomorrow, so the president can continue those conversations with the Ukrainian side of this conflict as well.
All right, you got Ukraine coming to the White House. You got Marco Rubio meeting with Russians. Donald Trump's going to Budapest to meet with Putin. This war is going to be over, folks. Sorry, folks, war's over. Moose out front should have told you. That's what we're going to be saying soon enough. And man, the Nobel Peace Prize Committee should come up with a special midterm. It should be like a midterm. It would be like, look, we didn't even want to wait till next year. They're going to be like, we didn't even want to wait till next October. I mean, you got 8 wars already, Pakistan and India and the Congo and Rwanda, and you got Armenia and Azerbaijan. And then, let's throw on top of that, Middle East, Gaza, and Hamas and Israel. And then on top of that, Ukraine and Russia. I mean, come on. That peace, I mean, they should apologize too. They should send Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize with an apology letter saying, you should have probably gotten this back-to-back years. And this should have been a back-to-back. You should have won back-to-back years. You should have been the only 2-time award winner for the Nobel Peace Prize with everything you've been able to do in 6 months' time. Now, as far as the Gaza deal goes, Donald Trump was asked about that at this meeting yesterday. And he said, look, the hostages are back. It's still a tricky situation.
They're looking for them. Absolutely. They're looking. So we have the living hostages all back. They returned some more today. It's a gruesome process. I almost hate to talk about it. But they're digging. They're actually digging. There are areas where they're digging and they're finding a lot of bodies. Then they have to separate the bodies. You wouldn't believe this. And some of those bodies have been in there a long time.
Yeah, it's a pretty gruesome sight, but he's getting it done, and they're doing it because Donald Trump said that's part of the agreement. And Donald Trump also posted something moments ago on Truth. There's more breaking news. Donald Trump, I guess he heard that in Gaza, since Hamas is back in charge, they're executing their adversaries. Now, basically, they're not killing Jews or Israelis or anything like that. Basically, what happened is when we went in and started bombing, or when Israel rather went in and started bombing Hamas and started to take over Gaza and started to, really just sow chaos, Hamas went into hiding. A lot of them were dead. A lot of them were taken. They just kind of dispersed. And there were these rival gangs and these rival families that came in and they kind of ceded power. They took back power in their neighborhoods. And they weren't the nicest people either. They were just kind of like the new gang taking over the neighborhood. Well, now that Hamas is back in power because of the peace agreement, Hamas is going in and executing all these people. They're basically killing Palestinians, which is weird because I thought they were all like some kind of brotherhood. But Donald Trump's not happy about that. Donald Trump's not happy about that at all. He just posted on Truth Social moments ago, if Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Most effective president we've ever had. Hey guys, this was not part of the deal. If Hamas continues to kill people in Gaza, which was not the deal, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. TYFYATTM. I'm telling you, that's the next sweatshirt. TYFYATTM. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That is how Donald Trump gets things done. And I imagine that Hamas will stop killing people in Gaza because they do not want Donald Trump to go in and kill them. And they know that Donald Trump will go in and kill them because Donald Trump has been blowing narco-terrorists out of the water and sleeping very well at night because he knows that for every narco-terrorist he kills, 25,000 people will live happily and peacefully with a long, healthy life in the United States of America. Donald Trump's brand, and this is something I wrote about this in my book, Go Trump Yourself, which, by the way, is so many people have been downloading this bundle. We've bundled it up now because I really want you to understand. A lot of folks are really interested in how Donald Trump is so successful, not just with foreign policy and domestic policy, but think about this. This is a guy who dominated in business and real estate. This is a guy who dominated in the entertainment industry. This is a guy who's been dominating in politics for over a decade. Crypto, you name it, whatever he touches, it turns to gold. And let's not forget about his amazing family. This is the guy whose family members, whose sons and daughters lead productive lives, wholesome, clean, productive lives. He's not showering with them. They're not strung out on drugs. They don't have laptops with nasty photos and crack pipes, that they're leaving all over these Maryland computer repair shops. That's not Donald Trump's family. That's other politicians. This guy has excelled at everything that he does. And it's because of characteristics. It's because of ways that he's set out to live his life. And that's what I wrote about in Go Trump Yourself, 10 Ways to Live Like Trump in Any Economy. And if you want to know the secrets of President Donald Trump in a very entertaining and hilarious real world depiction of life in Trump world. And this is me. I wrote this from following Donald Trump's campaign, meeting with members of the Trump campaign, meeting with members of the Trump family, my own experiences at various different rallies and at Mar-a-Lago. This is a great book. You download it and you can read it instantly on your iPhone or your iPad or wherever you want. And because it's bundled with the audiobook. So if you don't want to read it, I'll read it. You can just listen to it in your car. You get both the audiobook and the ebook delivered instantly. It's $24 and it'll teach you how to go Trump yourself, how to live like Donald Trump every single day. If you download this today, if you get Go Trump Yourself today, you could be living like Donald Trump tomorrow. Go to gotrumpyourself.com or click the link in the description of this video. There's just There's just breaking news every 5 seconds. There's stuff going on every single day. The government shutdown, I imagine, is going to continue. It's not going to stop. That's just how the Democrats are. They're going to keep it going through the weekend because they need the clout for No Kings protests. I'm going to try to get to some No Kings protest over the weekend. We've still got a campaign that we're running, and next Thursday we have a campaign event, which I've kind of been neglecting because of all the news that's been, breaking. And I need to make sure that I don't neglect the news that's been breaking. I need to make sure that I don't neglect this podcast, because every single day you're here. In the morning, you're listening to the 47 Daily, which you can get at the47daily.com. Every afternoon, you're here with me live, or you're listening to the podcast on the way home. And that's great, because this is important. What Donald Trump is doing in the White House, what his administration is doing globally and here at home, the lives that they're protecting, the narco terrorists that they're killing, the borders that they're solidifying, the peace deals that they're making. I mean, all of this does two things. Number one, it makes America great again, and it really angers the Democrats. And are there two better things in this world than that?
Shut up.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, listen, thank you so much for joining me today. If you have not yet subscribed, do it now, because like I said, we're doing this all the time, and we don't want you to miss out on a single piece of information that could save you, save your family, save your finances, save your future. And that could, of course, save the Republic. GoTrumpYourself.com if you want to get a copy of that book. Also, we do have an after party here in just a few minutes for our Patriot Club members. If you're not a member of the Patriot Club, then you can become a member of the Patriot Club. Go to Patriots.com right now. Join the club. It's $10 a month or $100. We give you like 2 months free if you do the entire year. And we're going to start the after party, the extra portion of Mark K Saves the Republic, in about 5 minutes. Go to Patriots.com right now to join us.